You know, how fine she is, or how fine he is, or what kind of car he drives. You know, because that type of stuff is temporal and it changes. What I wanted him to see from me was my heart. And what he wanted me to see from him was his heart. And both of our hearts were after God. And I promise you, there has been nothing that has come up against our marriage that God wasn't the center of and we weren't able to overcome. And there has never been a day that we were at odds with each other. You know, there might have been other people that might have had a problem with us, but we haven't had a problem with each other. And I can honestly say it has been peaches and cream, even when the world has not been. It has been within the confines of our marriage. And I'm just thankful that I'm able to walk this walk with the man that God gave me, because he's a man of God. And who you see when you see him is who he is at home.
And another thing that I want to bring up too, that I thought was so awesome. I remember when you gave your testimony not too long after you guys had gotten married, and you were saying, it was after you guys had your kids in your marriage. You said, I have 4 kids. And I was like, 4 kids? Where'd she get 4 kids? And then I had forgot that your husband had 2 kids before you guys got married. And I said, you know what? You were the first person that I had ever heard that referred to kids, to, as the world say, stepkids, as their own. And you taught me something that day, because I had negative connotations when it came to stepdaddy, stepmama, because of what I went through growing up when my mom remarried. But I was like, wow, that is so powerful. Never have you say, that's my son. When you see him, that's my son over there. That's my daughter. We have 4 kids. We don't have 2, we have 4. Well, and I think that's powerful. That needs to be talked about.
Well, when I met my husband, he had 2 children. Our daughter was 8 and our son was 6 when we married. And before I met his parents, I met his children. And believe it or not, I was grilled and questioned by the 8-year-old, and she approved. And that mattered, because I was about to be a very pivotal person in their lives. And if they saw something in me that he didn't see, they needed to tell him. Because, now that we have 4 children, I know how I feel. And you don't want just anybody around your children. And let me say this too. When we did see each other in June after we met in February or March, I didn't meet those children until months later, because it's important that you don't allow so many different people to have access to your children before you do know that they are the one, because you are then allowing other forces and spirits and what have you to have a place in the lives of your children, whether it be good or bad. Because sometimes, you've had my uncle or auntie or whatever children call these mates, these companions that their parents bring into the relationship, and they form a relationship with them that could be positive, and then next thing you know, they gone, and then there's heartstrings and soul ties attached to people that they were never supposed to know. So we were very careful that I didn't meet those kids until we knew that we were meant to be. And as I said, we got their approval. Now, that may not sound like that makes a difference to some people, because they were 8 and 6, but it did make a difference. And they are my children. From day one, they are my children. And I love them just as I do the last 2 children, because they have the same rights and privileges as the last 2 children, because they are our children, and we have 2 grandchildren now. But you got to know that, and if you're going into it with any other type of thought processes, then you need some more preparation.
And that's very powerful. I remember a young lady that married a guy, and I was at the guy's job because he cut hair, and I was there because my little brother needed his hair cut, and that's been years and years ago. And he was talking about how he couldn't stand her son.
Wow.
What, you take him home. Take him on home. I'll be there when I get there or whatever. She didn't want to have nothing to do with her son. But she overlooked all of that because he had a good job. He had a nice car. He had his own house. And I think that those things need to be talked about, that, if he can't love your kids, he or she love your children as much as they love you, you need to rethink that relationship.
Well, I came from a blended family.
Mm-hmm.
My dad, my father, who I love, is my stepdad. I was 2 years old when he married my mom, and my mom died when I was 4 years old. But he maintained that father-daughter relationship with me until this day. And he didn't have any other children, and I'm his daughter, and you can't tell him and anybody else in his family or friends or anybody else that I'm not his daughter. And so we knew how to work in the confounds of a blended family. Mm-hmm. And so, there was no confusion in my mind on how you treat a child that you didn't birth. Mm-hmm. You love them as if you did. And because that's the type of love me and my dad have for each other. And so I knew what to do. And there are other blended families within the confounds of my extended family. And we know how to treat each other. We know how to treat you. Love is unconditional. And who would enter into a relationship with someone knowing that, they're not baggage. Mm-hmm. They are gifts from God, and you should treat them as such. And I'm not saying that there may not be some dynamics with the other parent, but you need to try to, as much as you can, to be peaceable with one another and in those confounds, and not pit them against each parent or the bonus parent that they have, because who would want to have an adversarial relationship with someone that's going to have oversight over your children when you're not there? That's the dumbest thing in the world. But I see that. I see people doing that.
Very prevalent today.
But I say that's crazy, because you're not going to be with them all the time. Why not have an amicable relationship with the person that's going to be helping you in the rearing of your children? But yes, I agree with you. It certainly needs to be taught. Blended families need to be a teaching that comes across the pulpit, because a lot of times we as a people, especially, some Christians don't do any research on their own, and they believe what their pastors tell them. And I think that is something that should be taught, because it may not be natural, but it is of God.
Well, since you said that, I think the next show we need to talk about blended families. So we're going to admonish you guys to stay tuned next week to the Color Outside the Box podcast with your hostess, Princess Miller. More with Elder Latranza Burrell. These shows have been so good, guys. Stay tuned. Color Outside the Box is a podcast series that focuses on creating a better you. Whether it's advice about family, relationships, raising children in this technological world, marriage, or careers, we seek to find the answers to help you live your best life. So start your Monday morning off right with me, your hostess with the mostest, Princess Miller, on Color Outside the Box right here on iTunes and everywhere podcasts can be heard.